The Fox-Vixen snarled at everyone, but melted in lustful surrender when I whispered her name. The Scholar and the Serpent's Wrath. The Jade Mist Valleys held secrets older than kingdoms, and Tamsin Greywood had traveled 3 months to uncover just one. The village elders had warned him away from the coiling shrine, their faces pale with ancestral dread. "The Serpent Queen suffers no visitors," they whispered. "She strikes before you can speak, curses before you can bow. Turn back, scholar." But Tamsin's weathered satchel contained something precious, a scroll fragment rescued from a monastery fire, bearing characters in a dialect dead for 5 centuries. He'd spent years translating its mysteries, and every line pointed here, to a name erased from history. The shrine rose from the mist like a fang of jade stone, carved with warnings that made his skin prickle. Bones littered the approach, animal and otherwise, a garden of consequences for the foolish. Tamsin stepped carefully, his heart steady despite the danger. He hadn't come to conquer or bind, he'd come to return something stolen. "Another insect crawling into my domain." The voice slithered through the air before she appeared. Velendra Coil Whisper, her form both woman and serpent, magnificent and terrifying. Her scales shimmered like oil on water, black shot through with emerald iridescence. Her eyes blazed with millennia of rage. "Do you seek blessing, boy, treasure, or are you stupid enough to want me?" She moved like liquid violence, circling him with predatory grace. Her fingers ended in claws that had opened throats. Her smile promised pain. Tamsin didn't flee. He slowly opened his satchel, pulling forth the ancient scroll. "I seek only to speak a name," he said quietly, "one that belongs to you." Velendra's snarl faltered, her eyes narrowed, and for the first time in centuries, curiosity pierced her armor of fury. "You dare speak of names, mortal? Every tongue that tried left here silenced." "Then let mine be different," Tamsin answered, his voice carrying no challenge, only truth. "Listen, Velendra, and remember who you were before the world taught you to strike first." The Serpent Queen's scales rippled. Something ancient stirred in her chest. Recognition breaks the armor. Velendra's claws hovered inches from Tamsin's throat, trembling with centuries of conditioned violence. Yet she didn't strike. The scroll in his hands bore markings she hadn't seen since the age when spirits walked freely among humans, before betrayal became the common language between their kinds. "Read it, then," she hissed, her voice cracking like ice under spring sun. "Speak your precious words before I remember why mercy is foolishness." Tamsin met her burning gaze without flinching. The moonlight filtered through the shrine's broken roof, casting silver patterns across her scales. He began to read, his pronunciation careful, reverent. The ancient syllables flowed like water over stone. "Velendras Sail Nithara Coil Whisper, keeper of the Jade Springs, guardian of the autumn threshold, beloved of the first peoples." Her breath caught. The name, her true name, not the curse title fear had created, resonated through her very essence. Velendra's aggressive stance faltered. Her scales, which had bristled with threat, smoothed and softened. Memories crashed through her defenses. Children bringing flower crowns, elders seeking wisdom, a time when her shrine overflowed with gratitude instead of terror. "How?" she whispered, her serpentine lower body coiling unconsciously as vulnerability replaced venom. "That name died with those who loved me." Tamsin lowered the scroll, his expression gentle. "Names don't die. They wait for someone to remember them correctly. He took one careful step closer, and she didn't retreat. You became what they feared, because fear was safer than hope. But I didn't come to fear you, Valendras. I came to see you. Something broke inside her, not destruction, but thaw. Tears, which she hadn't shed in 500 years, burned at the corners of her eyes. This mortal scholar stood in her killing ground, speaking tenderness, offering recognition without demand. Her claws retracted slowly. You're either the bravest man alive, or the most foolish. But her voice held wonder now, not threat. Perhaps both, Samson smiled softly. May I stay? Not to take anything, just to know you as you truly are. Valendra's heart, so long armored in rage, began beating a new rhythm. Stay, she whispered. Tenderness where terror once ruled. The nights that followed transformed the shrine from a place of dread to a sanctuary of discovery. Tamsin returned each evening, bringing nothing but questions and patience. Valendra, who had driven away hundreds with her fury, found herself waiting for his footsteps on the jade path, her serpentine form coiling with anticipation rather than aggression. Tell me about the priests, Tamsin asked one moonlit evening, sitting comfortably on the shrine steps while she reclined nearby, her scales catching starlight. Valendra's eyes darkened. They came with binding chains forged in sacred fire, believing devotion gave them ownership. They wanted a guardian they could command, a weapon wearing my face. Her voice carried old pain. When I refused, they declared me demon instead of deity. Tamsin's hand moved slowly, deliberately, until his fingers rested near her coiled form, close enough to touch, but waiting. And the warriors? Hunters seeking glory in my death. They saw only monster, never the keeper of balance I once was. She watched his hand, her heart racing with unfamiliar nervousness. The lovers were worst of all. They desired conquest dressed as romance, wanting to claim they'd tamed the untamable. I want none of those things, Tamsin said softly. His fingers finally made contact, brushing against her scales with reverent gentleness. Valendra inhaled sharply, her entire form shivering at the touch. It held no aggression, no possession, only wonder. What do you want? She asked, her voice barely audible. To know the woman beneath the legend, to hear your laughter instead of your snarl, to prove that not every touch is a trap. His hand moved slowly along her scales, and she leaned into the caress like a flower toward sun. Valendra's defenses crumbled further. She shifted closer, her upper body, human-like and graceful, leaning against his shoulder. I've forgotten to trust, she confessed. Then we'll remember together, he promised, and dared to wrap his arm around her, holding her as the moon witnessed their quiet revolution. For the first time in centuries, Valendra felt safe. Surrender in sacred intimacy. The shrine's inner sanctum had been closed for generations, but Valendra led Tamsin there under the full moon's blessing. Luminescent flowers bloomed along the walls, their soft glow painting her scales in shades of pearl and jade. Her hands trembled as she drew him deeper into her sacred space, into the vulnerability she'd sworn never to show again. No one has entered here with my permission since the world turned cruel, she whispered, her serpentine form coiling nervously around the circular chamber. This is where I was whole, before I learned to wound first. Tamsin approached slowly, his eyes reflecting only admiration. You're still whole, Valendra. You just needed someone to see it.
His fingers traced the line of her jaw, and she closed her eyes, leaning into his touch with a soft sound of surrender. "I choose this," she breathed against his palm. "I choose you, not from defeat or spell or binding, but because you gave me back my name and asked for nothing in return." Their kiss was tentative at first, centuries of defensive walls crumbling with each gentle press of lips. Valendra's scales rippled with color, emerald deepening to sapphire, then warming to gold, reflecting emotions she'd buried under rage. Tamsin's hands explored with reverence, tracing the place where woman became serpent, marveling at her beauty rather than fearing her difference. She pulled him down onto the bed of moss and moonflowers, her serpentine strength cradling him with surprising gentleness. "Teach me softness again," she pleaded, her voice breaking with need. "Remind me what it means to yield without losing myself." Their union was slow poetry written in touch and breath. Valendra discovered that surrender to chosen love was the truest freedom, her powerful form intertwining with his mortal warmth, scales against skin, ancient meeting present. She moved with liquid grace, and he met her with patient devotion, their bodies finding rhythms older than fear. When she cried out his name in ecstasy, it held no venom, only joy reclaimed. Wrapped in his arms afterward, her serpentine coils protective around them both, Valendra finally understood. Being truly seen was more powerful than being feared.
The bond that transforms both. Spring arrived in the Jade Mist valleys with unprecedented gentleness. The villagers noticed the change first. The shrine's oppressive aura had lifted, replaced by something almost welcoming. The bone gardens had transformed into flowering meadows. And the Serpent Queen, once infamous for her cruelty, now appeared only when Tamsin walked the jade path, her terrible beauty softened by unmistakable devotion. Valiandra had become fiercely protective of Tamsin alone, her legendary hostility now a shield defending their sanctuary rather than a wall imprisoning her heart. When curious seekers approached, she no longer struck. She simply made clear that her chosen one was hers and hers alone. The difference was profound, possession replaced by partnership. Tamsin had built a small study within the shrine, his scrolls and books mingling with her ancient artifacts. Each evening they shared stories. He taught her modern dialects, she revealed forgotten histories. But their deepest conversations happened in silence, in the language of intertwined fingers and gentle touches, in the way her scales shimmered brightest when he entered the room. "You've changed everything," she murmured one twilight, her head resting on his chest while her serpentine form coiled contentedly around them both. "I thought love was a weapon used against me. You showed me it's a gift freely given." Tamsin kissed her forehead, his fingers trailing through her hair. "You taught me that wild spirits don't need taming, they need recognition. Your strength didn't diminish when you opened your heart, it multiplied because you finally had someone to share it with." She lifted her head, her eyes bright with emotion. "The village elders asked for my blessing yesterday. They brought flowers, not chains." Her smile was radiant, transforming her face from fearsome to breathtaking. "I said yes, because you reminded me who I was meant to be." Their kiss was deep and unhurried, a promise renewed with each shared breath. Valiandra had learned that vulnerability with the right person wasn't weakness, it was the bravest magic of all. As moonlight blessed their union once more, both understood they had found what legends claimed impossible, a love that honored freedom while celebrating devotion, that spoke truth in whispers, that proved the gentlest recognition could heal the deepest wounds. Lessons. True love recognizes rather than conquers,
speaking the beloved's name with reverence instead of claiming ownership through force or fear. Vulnerability shared with a trustworthy heart is not weakness, but the foundation of intimacy that transforms both souls into their truest selves. The wildest spirits surrender most completely when given freedom to choose devotion, for bonds forged in trust are stronger than any chains. Love whispered softly and honestly heals centuries of wounds, proving that patient tenderness accomplishes what violence and possession never could, the willing gift of a guarded heart.